What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Accelerate Your Life podcast. As always, I am your host, Mallory Marks, and today we got another really fun guest episode for you guys. And I'm excited for this one because I'm bringing in somebody who is an expert in a field that I am not an expert in yet. Maybe down the road, hopefully down the road. But that is being a mom, and specifically being a mom and navigating your fitness journey, your health and fitness journey. I know it is easy for me on my end to sit here and say all the things you should do and like all the time you should have to get to the gym to track your macros and yada yada yada. And I know there's an entire population of people out there that are probably rolling their eyes and being like, she has no idea what it's like when you have other kids running around and a husband to take care of and all of these things. So fine, I get it. I hear you guys. So I brought in somebody else who can speak to that. So I do just want to say hello and welcome our current client, Accelerated Athletics client, Victoria. Victoria, what's up?
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
I am good. How's the day going? How's work been today?
It's been good. I've had a lot of meetings, but I've been looking forward to this. So that's kind of helped propel me through the
Yay.
day. Like I've just got to get to this afternoon and it's going to be great. So
Oh
I'm
yes,
happy to
this is
be
going to
here.
be amazing. This is going to be so fun. I am excited to chat with you. And yeah, spoiler alert, if you guys didn't catch that part too, she's not only mom but also working a full-time job, so she can truly do it all. But we're going to really dig into, and I'll leave it at that. And I'm going to kind of let her be just the testimony, I think, in this episode about hopefully that like you guys seeing that you can do it too. But before we get into all of that, Victoria, I don't know if you've listened to any of the other podcast episodes. If you have, if you listen to the guest ones, you know that I like to ask one question at the beginning of every episode, totally unrelated to all of this, unrelated to health and fitness. And I just think it's completely open-ended. You can take it however you want, but I like to always see what is one thing happening in life, going on in life, about life that you love right now.
I think right now it is the unpredictability of my life. Every day is
Wow.
different. I'm a huge planner. And so I start my morning with like making a to-do list. And then by the end of the day, it normally does not look at all how I thought it was going to look. But I'm finding there's so much joy in the small moments that divert from my to-do list, and I'm enjoying that. Like, what's tomorrow gonna look like? I think I know what it should look like, but what is there's some excitement to it. I think if
That
that
is
makes
that totally, and I mean, I think that is an amazing answer because I think that that is the it. Like, oftentimes, I think if I ask somebody like, "What's the biggest stressor in their life right now?" Like that would be their answer. And so I think that that's amazing. That's probably, I'm gonna guess, if you're anything like me, something that was at a point of stressor and you've been able to really change your mindset around it. So I have to like now add an additional minute here to ask, like, how have you been able to do that?
um I think that's a great question. And it's been over kind of like multiple mini steps. I think one of the things was coming to a point where I realized, especially with my kids, that they're growing up so fast. And so in order for me to like soak it all in, I have to be intentional. And I can either be intentional with marking off everything on my to-do list, or I can be intentional with like stopping when they say, "Hey, can you play with me?" And in my head, I have all of these things to
Mhm.
do. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's play. Let's play Barbies. And so doing that, it kind of became a habit. I kind of like rewired my brain to say, what's most important right now? And opened up this huge perspective shift with my friends and my social life and my family. Every most things on my to-do list can wait.
Yeah.
So let me live life with the people that are around me right now. And then that's brought such a sense of like fulfillment and joy, way more than checking all the boxes. And I think that I like that now. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, I would rather do that
Yeah.
than but yes, you are right. It was a huge stressor for a very long time. And I also think combined with that perspective shift, I got to like a point in my life where I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. My blood pressure was always up. My heart rate when I was sitting down, not working out, was always elevated because of like pressure and stress. And I was like, I don't want to live like this. I'm too
Yeah.
young to be worked up all the time. So it was a combination of a couple things.
That is incredible, truly incredible. And I think that there's so much like what, and this is something I've like really come to realize now. I'm still absolutely working on it. Like you're inspiring me right now, I think, like with your answer, but I've come to at least know and be conscious of the fact that it's so funny because we have these to-do lists, we have these things to check off, we have all this stuff we're trying to do so that we can like achieve and be at a place where we're enjoying life. And it's like we forget to ever actually like live the purpose of what we're chasing.
Yeah.
And we completely lose the entire point. And so I think like recognizing all these things like can wait and I'm doing them to be able to like be healthy, to be here, to be with my kids, but like and I
Yeah.
think that that's and I know like I've really made that conscious awareness, but I'm still definitely working on the like applying it side of things.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think too, for me, something that I learned along that journey, so I was also doing a lot of like self like discovery and understanding my identity and who I am, like what do I like? Like
Yeah.
aside from being a mom and a project manager and a wife and a sister, like what do I like?
Yeah.
Right. And so in doing all of that, I think I was able to really get to a point where oh no, I lost my train of thought, Mallory. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
What was I gonna say? It was really good too. Oh man.
I think just kind of get like maybe something along the lines of getting to the point, getting to a point where you are finding who is Victoria outside of all these other aspects too.
Yes, that's along the lines of like who am I and learning to truly like love myself
Mhm.
and show up for myself
Yeah.
and trust myself to show up because I
Yeah.
was showing up for everyone else in my life with all of these to-dos, but then at
Hmm.
the end of the day, my like cup was empty
Yeah.
and I didn't feel like I knew who I was. And so, that kind of goes into one reason why I did join
Hmm.
Accelerate Athletics was to find something like where like what fills me up? Like,
Yeah.
how can I invest in myself? And so, yeah, that's where I was going. Thank you for your help.
You just segued perfectly into how I was going to segue, as far as I'm guessing, like, because this is a point that a conversation I have with all of the moms that I have on consult calls, every single one, is that they hit this point where they recognize they have no cup left to pour from because they have not been filling their cup. And it can at first seem very selfish to now take aside this time to yourself and divert from your kids, but it's really not doing that because once what you've noticed that now that you feel better and you have taken care of yourself, you've taken care of your health, like you want to stop and play Barbies now, right? Like
Yeah,
it actually
yeah.
like becomes the opposite. So I'm sure a lot of what you just said we're going to kind of hear repeated in this episode today, and I think as it should, because I really do think it all comes together. So a couple things though I want everyone to know about you and have like a good background of you so that they can see how they relate before they kind of we get into this. A couple things I already know and I want to confirm, and then maybe have some questions for you. But number one, obviously you are a mom. Is it a five? Am I right on that?
So
Five?
I am a biological mom of
Okay.
3 girls,
Three.
and
Okay.
then I am a stepmom of 4 additional kids. So 2 boys
Oh
and 2 girls.
my.
So there's
Okay.
7 altogether. Yeah.
7. Okay, I thought 5. I thought I was like, is it 5? And it's 7. Okay, okay. There's not that many people out there listening that can have you be on that. So, mom of 7. You
Yeah,
work a full-time job, correct?
I do.
And you said project manager.
Yes. So I'm a senior project manager for an IT software company in
Okay.
DC. But I
Okay.
work remotely most of the time, which I'm so thankful for
Yeah.
because I don't think I could do it otherwise.
And yes, I'm sure that does help, but still, you're on your computer like 9 to 5. You have those responsibilities. Anything else that you feel like, and I'm sure that like I mean, as we've just learned, doing a lot of your own like self-development time outside of this, pouring into you, anything else you feel like is kind of relevant that others might be relate to that like has been on your plate that may have prior made taking care of yourself and pouring into yourself a challenge?
Yes. So aside from my family and my kids and my job, I also am, I just recently had taken on knowing my plate was already pretty full, um, I took on the kids ministry director position at my church. So now I'm also leading that, which I have a heart for kids and it's awesome, but it's another thing that I'm like, okay, so now where am I gonna fit this within everything else? But I'm passionate about it and I'm excited about it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm only going to have this opportunity probably once in life. So let me just go ahead and do it. And it's been great. It's been so fulfilling and exciting. My kids and my stepkids are involved in activities. The boys play baseball and hockey, and then the girls
Oh.
do horse and dance and gymnastics.
All the things.
Um, so there's a lot going on in our life, but I think that because of all of that, taking the time, like one of the biggest reasons I hadn't was I had the mom guilt. Like I'm
Hmm.
working all day. I should be with my kids at night and on the weekends. And every time they're awake, I need to be right there because I'm not with them during the day. And I realized, and thankfully my husband was really instrumental in encouraging me in this, and I'm
That's
so
so
thankful for his
big. Yeah, that's
wisdom.
major.
He was like, listen, if you take, 45 minutes or an hour out of your evening, I've got dinner, I've got the kids, but to focus on you, when you show up for everyone, it's different because you know what I mean? And so he's just kind of like repetitive over time. And I would say, yeah, but not tonight. Yeah, but not today, and finally he was like, trust me. And I'm glad I trusted him because now I'm like, this is great, and the kids see it too. The kids notice
Yeah.
when I haven't done it. And now they're getting excited and they want to join me in my workouts. And
Yeah.
so it's like a whole family thing, not everybody at one time, but it's encouraging them too, and they're learning
Yeah.
from it. So it's really been a great
Oh my
experience.
gosh, that is amazing. What's your husband's name?
Brian.
Team Brian. Brian for man of the year. Seriously. I mean, and I will say that is one puzzle piece that unfortunately not everybody has. I do see it unfortunately so often is like the not so supportive spouse, and the supportive spouse makes such a difference, especially when you have kids and like they can step in and take some of that role. So that's incredible that he's been that, and that also again they've like your entire family has been able to see the benefits of when you do this for yourself. I'm also gathering, I think a big part, I'm going to make an assumption of why I think you've been so successful is you come off to me as very much as an I get to person, not an I have to person. So like
Yeah.
all those things you just listed, it's like, I get to like show up and lead the ministry. I get to like go watch my kids play sports and you're excited about it versus like, oh, I have to go do those things. And that it's like, it's the same reality, but the mindset around the two makes an entire different outcome. Would you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Well, absolutely. And I do think that is part of a perspective shift that I've had more recently in the recent years that I didn't have before, because there
Mhm.
was a long time that schedule was like, oh my gosh, I cannot take on another thing. I don't want to commit to something else. And if that's not the person, like that's not who I am. I
Yeah.
had just let all of these pressures just like, the perspective. Like, who do I want to be? Do I want to be? I get to, and I do. Like, I'm a very optimistic person. And so even phrasing things like that has over time like rewired my thought process, and it's just I can see the positives more so than the negatives most of the time. I definitely am not always positive, but
100%.
most of the time I do, and I'm thankful for that because we only get one life, right?
100%.
So looking at it like that kind of just
Yeah. It's
changes it.
it's up to us to do with that
Yeah.
what we will, right? And like again, it's the
Mhm.
same reality that you'd have regardless, but like the reality changes based on how you look at it. So I think that's incredible. Okay, so you've been with EA for about 5 months now, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's back up to like the very beginning of all that. How did you originally find out about us, and what was it that really made you want to sign up?
I think that so I had I mean, over my lifetime, like there have been when I was younger without kids, in my early to mid 20s, I would go to the gym like twice a day. I was very
Mm,
athletic. I was involved in sports. I never had a problem with my weight or body image or even thought about it. And then after I had my first daughter, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's. And I could not, no matter how hard I worked, how much I ate or didn't eat, or like all of these yo-yo, I could never lose the weight. And I would try, and like I think I tried like South Beach or something
mhm.
one time, and I would lose it temporarily, and then I
Right.
would go back to my normal lifestyle, and it would all come back. And so I did this for so many years, and then I finally got to a point where, especially with my kids getting older and wanting to be more engaged with them, I was just too stinking tired. Like I did not have the energy to do it, and I'm like, where do I even start? Like I don't know how to start. And so one of my friends actually was already working with EA, and I loved the tone in her legs. I was like, I want to have your legs. What are you doing? I want those legs. And so she told me about it, and I was like, send it to me. Like, let me look into it. And then I just felt like this is it. Like, this is not just, don't eat this, eat all of like the diet myths and everything like that. It's a full package of understanding what your body needs specifically, understanding how to get there, and not just with exercising but with nutrition, and specifically for your lifestyle, so it's easier to attain than somebody who doesn't have kids and doesn't have the same responsibilities and has more time versus someone who doesn't. it's so customizable. And I was like, you know what? I can work with that. That seems flexible enough that I can do it. So yeah.
Amazing. I completely forgot you came from like a referral. Who was it? I can't remember.
Sierra Kendall.
Yeah, okay. Sierra, yes, she's awesome.
She is.
Amazing. And that's been this is a side tangent, but like I think that's been one of the coolest parts of growing EA to me is like the amount of number one, like people who end up re-signing their coaching, right? And renewing their coaching. Cause like to me, I'm like, okay, you've already now paid this, you've done X amount of months and you see the value enough to want to keep doing it. And then of course, like the referrals. Because that to me has just put so much faith in, okay, we're doing something right. And like, it's making a difference. So that's so awesome to me. What were your goals? Obviously, it does sound like you were on a very, I want to say common, because a lot of people have gone through this journey, like weight loss and health journey where you kind of yo-yo, you can't really find your way. A lot of people I think can relate too to the fact of like never having to worry about it until after they have kids. And so I'm sure a lot of the goals are relatable too. What were your goals initially when you started with EA?
So definitely having more energy and being able to keep up with my kids. But then another huge goal of mine was I have done so much like self work and like on the inside
Mhm.
and on like my mind and my perspective and everything. And I wanted, and I was, I mean, nobody's attained it. Like I'm still working towards that,
Right.
but I wanted to see on the outside how I felt on the inside. I'm like, you know what? This is not the optimal way my body can function. Like, what can this body do? Let me actually put it to the test and see what it can do. And so it was kind of a challenge to me. Like, how strong can I become? How, much endurance can I gain? Like that I knew I wasn't anywhere near where I could be. And so it was like a test for myself, to do it. And also I wanted to be able to trust myself again with
Mm,
my health and with my
mm,
time. And I didn't trust myself. I would be like,
mm.
you know what? I'm not eating sugar. That's it. And then tomorrow I would eat a cupcake. And I'm like, oh man, and I kept letting myself down. And so I was like, I
Yeah.
want to show up for myself and know that I can trust myself to continue to show up for myself. Like that's huge. And it's a hard thing to attain. It sounds really easy, but it's hard to do. So I wanted to like challenge myself in that way. But I
I
didn't know
think,
how.
yeah, I think that last part is so underrated. And like you said, that I was like, oh, that part, like, because again, a lot of people come into it just thinking, okay, I want to look a certain way. And like all of that will bring confidence and like and I will never be the one to say, like, let's not focus on that. But I think people so underestimate the narrative that, like, and the way you look at yourself and the way you trust yourself. That was such a great way to phrase it. Like, I think people underestimate the impact of you continuously not doing the things you say you're going to do, or not like kind of being you're proud of yourself for showing up in this like realm has on not only this specific realm, like obviously when you keep failing or going against what you say you're going to do and you keep like quitting the diet or you say you're not going to have sugar and then you do, like that brings down your own self-confidence and the ability to reach any health goal, right? Like obviously it impacts your confidence in this realm, but I also think consciously or subconsciously it impacts your confidence in all the other parts. Like if you're not doing what you say you're going to do in this, do you believe you're actually going to, be the employee that you need to be to get the raise? Do you believe you're worthy of that promotion? Do you believe you're worthy of like, do you believe you're a good mom and like all these other ways? Like I can't imagine the other, I mean, I can, because I know I used to do that too, like the places that subconsciously bleeds into. So I I really like the way you phrase that. And I think there's people listening that don't even recognize that they have began to like have that narrative for themselves and like have lost trust with themselves just because of this small thing. So I think that's major. Now you did mention, I'm going to go back a little bit to what you said a minute ago in the last question. And I know you said this in your testimonial that we posted as well, but you mentioned that one thing you love about what we did and what really worked for you is that we're really big on moving at your pace or whatever client's pace that they need to be at. Starting where you need to start and then building from there. So I would love for you to share a little bit about what this specifically looked like for you. Tell us a little bit about where we started with your protocols, what we built to, how it kind of was added on to, and all of that.
Okay. So first I wanted to say, and I think I already told you this, but Coach Megan has been the most patient and
She rocks.
amazing to work with for me. Like she's just been so great. When I first started, I actually was under eating. She had like I was, not eating enough of anything, much less protein or calories. And so she was like, all right, this is where we need to start. And I was like, okay, so that, and I'm a huge like process person. So the fact that there was the app and I needed to check things off, like I was all about that because I didn't have to remember anything. It was
Hmm.
all right there and I just had to like go through and do it. So it was fantastic. And then, then as we kept going, like I was super excited. The idea of a cut, I was like, let me just get to the cut. Like I just want
Yeah,
to get to the cut. I'm totally ready.
as
But I
everyone
definitely
does.
wasn't. But I wasn't. And because it was the habits that I had to build first that I
Mm,
didn't even know I needed to build. And that was the huge part, like the educational side of Accelerate Athletics has been huge for me because I had no idea. Most of the things I've learned, I had no idea that that was even something I should like know, right? And so little by little, she just walked me through it step by step. And I didn't do like full macros right away. But as we got there, I had so many questions, obviously, and she was just so great with like explaining them all to me and being flexible with me. Flexibility, I think, has been the biggest thing for me and the thing that has helped me keep going. Um, you know, so I started back at the very end of March, and then in May, my husband got a new job, and he was working a lot more than he was before. So getting the kids, dinner time, all of that was, solely me. And it was really hard. So I started off really like really great and strong and getting everything done and checking all the boxes. And then I would come to check in and be like, I didn't get to this, or and so she was so great working with me. She's like, okay, you know what? Then let's do this. Let's, change your workouts around. Let's change the length of time you're doing your workouts.
hmm.
And then even if there was a point where like I was like, hey, I haven't even had time to get any of them in this week. She's like, you know what? It's okay. Start with just doing the first two exercises. Just get the first two
I love
in.
that.
Something's better than nothing. And then I would find myself, I would get the first two in, and I would be like, you know what? I
I'm
have
already
time
here.
to do the
Yeah,
next one. Let me do the next one. And and she was
I
just
love
so
that.
like encouraging the whole time. And that kept me going. And like, and she believes in me. So if she believes in me, I've got to show up for me and I want to show up for her. And so like having that accountability, it speaks volumes because it's easy to be like, you know what, I'm not going to do it and like talk yourself out of it
Yeah.
because it's just you talking to yourself. But when you know that you've got someone who's rooting for you that you have to go to and be like, yeah, I didn't feel like it, or I didn't, it changes the game.
Hmm.
You show up differently because you want to be a part of that team. Really, EA is a team. You want to show up for everyone on the team. So, yeah, that's been huge. Did I answer your question,
Yes, you
Mallory?
did. You did. And there are so many pieces in there I like kind of want to pull out and elaborate on. I think like one thing that came to mind and stuck out to me is I think there's this like two-sided part that makes it challenging for people where a lot of people like you mentioned, you needed to start with some habits that you didn't even know that you maybe needed to have. And you needed to, you needed to start a little bit lighter than you probably would have thought, right? I think a lot of people don't realize like it is okay to start a lot more basic and you actually need to start a lot more basic to be successful. So they'll either do one of two things. They'll jump right full on in and then they'll get really frustrated or they don't have the foundations to be successful at that, or they'll think like it needs to look this specific way. I need to track all three macros. I need to be working out an hour at a time 5 times a week, and if I can't, there's no way I can do those things, so I'm not going to do anything at all. And
Yeah.
sometimes you really need that objective person who like tells you like, no, 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 I'm the expert in this, and like it's going like we need to pull back to this, and that's how you're going to be successful, for you to kind of like get your footing and get that going. So I think that was a big thing. And then there was something else I was going to say, but now I lost my train of thought as well. Oh, I did want to know, like, what were some of the, on that note, the habits, like mentioning that there were some things you didn't even know you kind of need to start with. What were like maybe one or two of those that you, because that was, I remember it now. I think a lot of people, especially the type of clients we work with, they typically have a relatively solid foundation coming in. A lot of people are not brand new. We're not,
Mhm.
some people are, but we're not necessarily starting at like, what's a vegetable?
Yeah.
They're typically kind of in the position you were at, right? Where you mentioned you used to be a former athlete. You were really fit, like you had a good knowledge. So it's probably easy for you to assume, like, I know what healthy foods are. I know to move my body. And so what were some of the things that you like weren't aware of that you did have to actually like implement from the foundation?
Um, I don't I don't necessarily know if I wasn't aware of it. I think it was just in the far back of my mind. It was like the
Mm.
bottom of my priorities. Was sleep, getting
Oh,
enough
yeah,
sleep. She was
100%.
like, "How much sleep do you get a night?" And I was like, 4 to 5 hours. And she was
Victoria.
like, "Okay." She was like, let's start there. Okay, that sleep's really important for a lot of reasons. So obviously, like I knew you should
Right.
probably sleep more than that, but just having her reiterate that, I was like, yeah, I guess this is if I want to get here, I do need to start with my
Yeah.
sleep habits. Let's start there. And then, drinking enough water. I'm a
Mm.
huge coffee and unsweet tea, like caffeine. That's for a long time. That's how I kind of like ran was just on caffeine, low sleep, a lot of caffeine. And so that was something that she's helped me like, okay, we're going to limit your caffeine to this much a day. Like, let's try not to go over this threshold. Instead, get more sleep. I'm like, that checks out. Okay, that makes sense. We can do that. And so just those tiny habits that for life in general, like humans in
Yeah,
general should have less caffeine and more sleep. But it also ties into your health and fitness too. So
100%.
that was a great example of that.
Yeah, two great things for you to mention because those are two things that, yes, they seem obvious, but we all seem to think we're like the exception, or we're like, no, but like, it's not that bad. Like, it's 5, it's 5 hours or whatever. And like, I know there's so many people out there listening that are like, okay, yeah, like I know sleep's good, but I have not been paying attention to that. So those are really good ones. They make a massive difference. So I think I think that rounded up that and gives a really good overview of truly being able to meet you where it's at. Now I'm curious. Obviously, you mentioned earlier in this episode that something that kind of stopped you from the get-go was always that kind of, I don't have time, I have so much going on. So how much was the I don't have time or I don't know if I'll be able to commit to this an excuse for you? Or I don't even love the word excuse because I think it felt probably very, very valid at that time. But how much was that a block for you when it came to your health and fitness prior to this?
I think it was a huge block, but I think it was because I didn't consider myself a top priority. I
Mm,
had the time, but instead of
mm,
taking the time to do that, I would say, okay, well, I have 3 loads of laundry to do. That's what I need to get done. Did I need to? Did everyone have clean clothes? They did. But I felt like it is my job as a mom to get the laundry done before I can spend time doing something for myself. When I realized when you reverse it, when I take the time to spend on myself, I felt like I had unlimited energy to do the laundry and clean. And once I showed up for me, and then I had that. So it was a perspective shift that did take time. But I'm really determined and sometimes even almost stubborn determined that I was like, you know what, like this needs to be a shift. I need to make this perspective change for myself. So it was it definitely was an excuse, but I thought it was a valiant excuse, right? Like I'm doing this for my family when nobody was asking me to do the laundry. I felt like I needed to do that first. And so going back to what we said earlier, once I started filling my cup, everything changed. I'm like,
yeah.
I can do both. So yeah.
That yeah, I can very much see that. And it's actually interesting you say that because I have the conversation with specifically busy moms a lot where I validate the fact that like your time does not look like my time. And I know your time is very, very limited. But I do think in most cases there still is time. Now, oh, this is something I was going to touch on in what you previously said. Like sometimes that time is maybe backing off to only 30-minute workouts, or it's not the time you think it is, but that's okay. But like there probably is time. Now, I say to a lot of them that I think oftentimes the challenge is that you just don't know what to do with that time. Like you don't have necessarily a strategy that you feel really confident about in the gym or a strategy with your nutrition. And so to put that already very limited time that you have towards something that you're not feeling like is maybe worth the effort is more
Mhm.
so the challenge. But you also just mentioned the fact about not feeling like a top priority, which I think is it's not something I've thought about. And that's also a very valid thought. So I'm curious from you, um, which do you feel like maybe it was more, or maybe a better way to even ask this is, do you feel like you came to the realization that you wanted to put yourself as a priority first and then like that brought you to EA, or do you feel like EA kind of helped you realize you wanted to make yourself a priority? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a really great question. Huh. I would say I think I got to a point where I wanted to make myself a priority, but I didn't know how. I wanted to make my health and fitness a priority, but I knew I was nowhere close even starting. And so coming to EA, I knew I don't have all the answers, but they do.
Mhm.
So they can give me the answers so that I can then implement making myself a priority, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like it was kind of what I often say to people is like, now you got to that point and you're like, okay, I do know I have the time. It's just a matter of like, that time only feels worth taking that hour, like you said, away from my kids if I know that like what I'm doing is correct. And you really needed some help with that strategy. Okay. Now I think that a common thing that people run into, this is not just moms, this is not just busy people, this is anyone, is they often think, okay, I've made this investment, or I've gotten the trainer, I bought the gym membership, and now it's just going to happen. And like, I am not one, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it to anyone. Like even when we're on, enrollment calls, we're like, you still have to show up and do the work. And so I don't
Mhm.
want anybody listening to this to make any mistake of like, you decide that, okay, I'm going to like put myself as a priority and make this investment, that there's still not that work to do. So yeah, I would love to know from you, like, how much do you feel like you still had to really make a new effort that you never had to like find that time and put aside, and how much did actually just having now Coach Megan, accountability, an actual strategy help make that work a lot easier?
I would say it was 50-50.
Yep.
Definitely having Coach Megan was huge because she was able to guide with the time that I did have, she was able to say, this is the best way to optimize the time that you have. But then at the same time, I think that it was hard. I was mentally like, it took grit. I was like, okay, am I going to
Right.
sit here on this work, like this bench for the next 30 minutes and just like psych myself up? Or am I just going to do it? Because I only have 30 minutes. So it was a lot of self talk and like, Victoria, just do it. Just think and do it. And then you're going to appreciate it. And then after
Yep.
like I would started, I'm like, I can do it. Going back to trusting myself. Oh, I can take this time and make the most of it. And then once I started feeling stronger. Like it wasn't like overnight results because I had been mistreating and not taking care of my body for a long time. So one thing I did go into it knowing is one truth I brought in with myself was like the realization of I have not taken care of my body for a long time. I can't expect, regardless of how amazing, like even Coach Megan is, like this will take time and I have to be patient. I can't expect like, all right, I've done 1 week of workouts, like where are my abs? I don't see them. Like I had to have the realistic expectation of if I put it like the effort that I put in will match the results that I see. So if
100%.
I choose to not do it, I'm not going to see any change. But if I'm going to like commit to it, then I will. And so, the results definitely match the effort that you put in.
100%. I want to
Yeah.
copy and paste your self-awareness and like just to every person. And you know what? Like, and because my next question was going to be back to kind of those goals, like, where are you on those goals? And I'm still going to ask that here in a second. But honestly, no matter even where you're at in your physical goals, like I'm going to guess that you would say you feel so much more confident than you did when you first started. You feel so much more energy. You feel so much better. And that's not solely because you have or haven't lost 10 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever. It's because you have gotten that trust back for yourself and because you've showed up with grit. And I love that you use that word and you feel so proud of yourself after. And truly, like, that is what brings so much of people's confidence. And I think like having that self-awareness to be able to say, I have to show up and do these things. And I also the realistic too of like what is like a realistic timeline. Like you are setting yourselves up for um to be more at peace rather than to constantly feeling like I'm behind, whatever. And so I just want anybody listening to like, Victoria has an amazing mindset and amazing self-awareness. And like that is part of being successful and being happy and seeing the results. Like just seeing the physical progress and like just showing up and doing the work, like that's not going to be what only gets you to the mental place you want to be. Like you have to have the mindset that you have. And I just think it's phenomenal.
Oh, thank
But
you.
back to the goals, where
Yeah.
are you that you talked about? I know like that we talked about a minute ago. Where are you kind of at on those now 5 months in?
So I think that physically, I'm not quite yet where I want to be, but I will also say, and it's tough to admit, but physically, I had told you that my husband started a new job, which kind of like cut down on the time that I had. Then we unexpectedly bought a house and we're moving between two different houses for like in the span of a month. So I'm like going back and forth between life to these houses. So my actual like weight trainings I didn't get in, but I did get in a lot of steps and a lot of cardio. So I think that kind of saved me there.
Oh yeah.
But so then once we finally moved our gym equipment over and got it set up, and I'm like, okay, now I can actually start back. So I still, it for me, like I know that I'm not where like at the peak performance my body can get to yet. However, I will say that I feel much more confident to like lift heavy things,
Yeah.
and if I need to like move a couch, I'm not like, oh no, how will I move it? I'm like, all right,
Right.
I got it. Let me just like
Yeah.
stick it up here, and then and so I do feel better. I have that like self-confidence to do that, So
100%.
I'm headed towards them. I haven't met them yet,
For
but I
sure.
do think it's going to be an ever evolving thing because even once I hit the goals I have in my mind right now, I think then I'll be like, okay, now what's the next set? Let
Yep.
me move to the next set. So I
Yep.
think that they'll always be growing as I grow.
Yep. Casually left moving houses off the list at the beginning of all the things she has on her plate. But I can make you a promise it will be an ever evolving door. It is still for me 7, 8 years into this. It will always be. And that's why I know it's so cheesy, but it is a journey because like it's not just this finish line. Like you're always going to, whether it is new goals or just the aspect of like still showing up daily just to take care of yourself, like it's never going to change. But yeah, you
Yeah.
are still very much on the way to those goals. And I wouldn't expect you to be at your peak goals 5 months in. That's really not that long, right? And we've taken it at the pace that works for you. And I think that's the biggest thing too when we go back to the idea of like moving at your pace. The only thing that anybody has to accept with that is like there's going to be a perfect fast route that can get you there faster for sure, but that's not often something that's doable for most of us. And so you just have to match the, like you said this too, the input to the output, and like whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. And there's nothing wrong with putting in maybe shorter workouts for this time period, and like because that's what you can do. But you also have to understand it's just not going to move at the faster pace that the more would, and that's okay. It's just about like matching those, right? Which again, you have had the mentality to do. I think sometimes people just need to recognize that. So I love that, and you are very well on your way, and I'm so excited to see where you'll be in another 5 months. But last big question I'd say I'd have for you is, obviously it sounds like there's been a lot from coaching that's been really helpful, but if you can, maybe let's just pick one singular thing that you would say has been the most helpful from coaching so far.
Well, that's tough. Um, I oh, there's so many. I would say for me, the biggest thing, one of the biggest, I have a lot of them, but one of the biggest was having a coach always in my corner. There were times when I was like, I don't know if I can do it, or I'm sorry I've disappointed you and I'm disappointed in me. And it was this whole like pity party. And she was like, no, you do not have to say sorry to me. I'm here for you. I believe in you. You can do it. And so there were times when I felt like maybe I can't do this. And she was like, no, you can. She was just
Yeah.
so encouraging. And it was genuine too. It wasn't like, oh, I have to say this. It was
Right.
genuine. And so I felt like it constantly gave me that motivation when there were times that I didn't see my potential. I didn't see that it was possible, and she just continually reminded me that it was. And it's like, especially as a mom and as a busy mom, we tend to be the one who's encouraging everyone else around us. You've got it. You can do it. You're strong. You're brave. But it's not always reciprocated, and not
Yeah.
not that it should be, but it is nice having that person that's your like they're in your corner
Yeah.
specifically, and that was huge. It was really big. So I think that was one of the biggest things
That
that
makes
helped
me
me.
very happy. And I will say, like with Megan specifically, and with like you two being the match specifically, like Megan is a mom herself. She has 2 kids. They're both under the age of 3, I think. And so she's been in your shoes, or she is in your shoes. And that's what I love. Like that's why I'm so glad I've been able to grow the company to a place where I have, the 5 awesome assistant coaches. And I always say, like, I only hire people who can do things that I can't do. I'm not a mom. That's why I have Megan and Jess who know those and like can work with clients who have been in those shoes. That's why we have, Ellen, who has these hormone specialties, Nicole, who's been a past athlete, and like these things I can't relate to. And I think that's something we do well. I'm going to brag on ourselves for a second, is like be able to match you with somebody who like it's so genuine because they know exactly where you are, and can match that. So I'm so glad to hear that like you've gotten that. But I think that it's pretty much all my questions. Now, I'm going to let you actually wrap this up because, again, I think maybe there's things that I didn't even ask or things we didn't touch on that you think could really impact somebody listening who is in similar situation as you and does think that they aren't worth the time or prioritizing themselves. So, I would love for you to just give any advice that you have for busy moms, people, moms who think that they don't have time to make themselves a priority. What would you say to someone who knows that they need to pour into their cup but are just really struggling to do that?
Okay, let me think about
Mhm.
this.
I probably should have given
um,
this one, yeah, you some time to think on this one. Take your time.
um, I would say the the best way that you can show up for your kids is to show up for yourself first. Because when you put in the effort to show up for yourself, your kids are going to feel it. They're going to see a genuine smile when they see you. It's not going to be forced, it's not going to be tired. They're going to see an excitement, in your eyes that's genuine because you've shown up for yourself and you're ready to now come and show up for them completely revitalized and refreshed. And it's really easy to get pulled into the mom guilt of I should be doing this instead. I should be doing this. But in reality, if you make yourself a priority, like you'll be able to do all of that and more. And it'll be so natural. You won't have to force any of it. And so it really is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. And when it comes to time, because time definitely is a factor, is just be flexible. Do what you can do each day. Like if you look at it as, oh my gosh, in this week, my schedule's crazy. There's no way I have time to do it. Just dial it back and say, today, I have 30 minutes to scroll on social media. So that means instead of that, I can hit the weights really hard for 30 minutes, or I can go on a 30-minute walk and just chunk it day by day. Because sometimes when you look at the big picture, it can get overwhelming.
Mhm.
So just what can you do today for yourself and for your health? And instill those good habits in yourself, and then it becomes a part of your lifestyle, and then it doesn't become a stressor, or if it was a stressor, it's not anymore. Does that make sense?
100% and
Okay.
absolutely great advice. And I hope everybody listening really takes all of that to heart. And actually, it reminded me of one fitness influencer that I have followed for probably like 7 years now. And she was not a mom when I originally followed her. Now she has 3 kids. And she always says after her third kid, she just had her third kid like 7 weeks ago. And she posts like a lot of vlogs and stuff. And the first thing she says in every vlog is, first things first, I'm first. And that's like become her motto. And she's like, to kind of show the way I take care of my kids is like, first things first, I'm always going to be first. I'll actually send her your, I think you would really enjoy following her. So I'll send you her profile. But
Yes, please
yeah,
do.
thank you so much for coming on. I think this was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed this conversation. There was points where I like almost wanted to get emotional because I just also too like you are just such a light, and I think that you like just the again mindset you have and the way that you've been able to change things from very much like an I have to do and I get to mindset, and like again 7 kids, like the fact that you do have everything you have on your plate and have still been able to develop this relationship with yourself, this relationship with your health. I know that everybody is different, but seriously, like if Victoria can do it, you can do it. Okay, guys. So anything else that you just want to add or say?
Um, Again, thank you. I mean, I'm so thankful for Accelerate Athletics. I definitely would not be where I'm at in my fitness journey without it. I would still be trying to figure out like how much sleep do I actually need, and should I would be in such a different place. And I'm so grateful for EA truly, because it's given me the structure that I needed to meet the goals that I've already had. And yeah, it's been fantastic.
Oh,
So thank you so much for all you do,
thank
for the
you.
coaches and for everyone on our team. So I
You got
appreciate
me
it.
fired up. I'm ready to go, like, make some content, talk to some people, help some people. Oh, you got me fired up.
Thanks, girl.
Sometimes I will be honest too, like, because I at this point with the company, like, I don't have my own one-to-one clients anymore, which is wild. And so sometimes I'm a little bit removed and like I don't like get I don't hear that all the time anymore. And so it just like it's really nice to hear too and to like reinstill me like this is what I was meant to do. This is what I was put here to do. Like this is why I do what I do. So thank you for saying all of that. And thank you guys for listening. We will be back again next week with another episode. See y'all on the flip side. Bye.